Can we please talk about UFC 271 just for a minute? This fight card has rolled round super quickly, and also, full disclosure, my finger was well off the pulse because I did not realise that Lewis versus Tuivasa was on the co-main event. I didn't realise they were on this card. I thought that was a main event kind of later on down the road, like in a month's time or something, because that is a main event. That's the people's main event. Now, I'm not shitting on the main event for this card. Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker 2 is an incredible main event, middleweight title, you know, lots of beef between them. It's got everything. But Tai Tuivasa versus Derek Lewis, that is a fight for the people. Good God, am I looking forward to that one. Anyway, I've gone through and I've picked out some fighters where I feel like there's at least some value on the bets, because as I always say, that if you want to try and get rich betting on mixed martial arts, you're an idiot, because it's not going to happen. It's too unpredictable. And gambling in general, the house is always going to win. So keep those stakes low, keep those odds long, and keep those bets terrible. And these are terrible bets. If you want to actually win your bets, probably do the opposite of all of my picks, and you probably won't go far wrong. Full disclosure. But I just like to put these down just for a little bit of fun, and it spices up the fight. So I'm going to go down, have a look at who I think is going to win and why, and we can all laugh at how wrong I am the next week. But for the time being, let's take a look at the Burt Locker Fights in 15 for UFC 271. So we're going to start off in the heavyweight division, right? William Knight, Maxim Grishin. Now I know what you're thinking, but William Knight's a light heavyweight, isn't he? Apparently not anymore. Apparently he has gone up to heavyweight. William Knight is a beast, to be fair. He was huge at light heavyweight. Did you see the state of his legs in his last fight against Alonzo Menafield? He managed to get a decent decision over Alonzo Menafield. Good fight. William Knight is a good fighter, and I like him in this one. He is an underdog as well, and I'm not quite sure why. The bookies may have missed something, or I may have missed something, because his opponent Maxim Grishin is not a full-on 265er either. He often flutters around at light heavyweight as well. But the difference is, he's mostly fought in K1, PFL. The competition is just not the same as it is in the UFC, where William Knight has been for at least his last 4 contests. And Grishin has fought, he's 1 and 2 in the UFC. That's not exactly lighting the world on fire. Whereas William Knight, he's got a patchy record. However, he has been fighting in the UFC, and he has looked good. He beat Alonzo Menafield. Alonzo Menafield is really good, and that win really impressed me. So it's got them billed both at light heavyweight still, but it says the fight is taking place at heavyweight, so I'm going to assume that it is going to take place at heavyweight. Doesn't matter though, because Knight kills this clown, and I'm taking that at 3.75, so you're getting 2.75 to 1, almost 3 to 1, which is a terrible bet, because William Knight will almost definitely get a decision. But I'm going for the knockout. I think he's got some power in those legs, and hey, look, if they haven't been cutting weight, I'm interested to see what kind of a state we see William Knight come into. I mean, because the dude was jacked anyway. I cannot wait to see what a heavyweight William Knight looks like. This is going to be a good one. Then, also on this card, we've got a chap called Blood Diamond. Do I add him to the bet slip? He's 3-0. He's called Blood Diamond. That is all I've got. I'm tempted. No, I'm not going to do that. Don't know anything about him. I don't really know much about his opponent either, but it's weird. I know that's his nickname. I can't remember what his actual name is, but it is weird when you see the UFC's website just bill them as Blood Diamond. It's like, oh, okay, Blood Diamond it is, I guess. Then we've got Jared Cannonier versus Blonde Brunson. Now, Cannonier, he is bloody good. He's really good. He's got an absolute cannon of a right. That right hand is a piston. He managed to knock out Hermanson, Silva and Branch. He's got the power and he's got the fundamentals. He's very, very good. He got outclassed by Robert Whittaker, but let's be fair, Robert Whittaker is extremely good. He's extremely well-rounded, and he just had Cannonier's number, right? Cannonier is class. He is absolutely class, and it would not surprise me to see him, get the knockout, to get a decision. He's got a lot of tools at his disposal. That being said, Blonde Brunson is undefeated, and I'm going with Blonde Derek Brunson to get the decision. 3.50. Blonde Brunson to get the decision. Then we've got Derek Lewis versus Tai Tuivasa. This is the people's main event. As I said, no disrespect to the main event. The main event is great, but come on. this is going to be an excellent fight. You put these two together and it's going to be fireworks. Or is it? You know? We all thought that when they put Derek Lewis against Francis Ngannou, didn't they? They said, don't blink, don't blink. This one's going to be over in a couple of seconds. And it wasn't. You know, it was a snooze fest. Now, I don't think this one's going to be a snooze fest. Look, you have got 21 knockouts versus 12 knockouts. Obviously, Derek Lewis, as you probably know, holds the most knockouts in UFC history at 21. And Tai Tuivasa is no slouch himself. He's got 12 knockouts to his credit, so 33 combined knockouts. And their style really adds to this, because the thing is, I would say that it's fairly obvious that Tai Tuivasa, he's coming in, he's slightly smaller, but he is going to have an edge in speed. We saw him in his last fight, he just looked very, very fast, and he just really was cracking people. And the way he smacked Greg Hardy to pieces as well. Tai Tuivasa has looked super impressive. And if it wasn't for Derek Lewis's last performance, I would be picking Tai Tuivasa in this without a second thought. However, Derek Brunson, when he's not got so much pressure on him, when he's just fighting for fun and he lets his hands go, that's a scary proposition. And Tuivasa, he's going to be playing into Derek Brunson's wheelhouse, and that's a dangerous wheelhouse to be in. Let's be fair. Not Derek Brunson, Derek Lewis's wheelhouse. I do apologise. I've got Brunson on the brain. What can I say? Anyway. Yeah, Tai Tuivasa is going to be playing into Derek Lewis's wheelhouse. And to a certain extent, that's a very dangerous game to play. Now, Tai Tuivasa could win that battle. He could go in there and swing with Derek Lewis, just be that little bit quicker, and he could put his lights out. However, you stand in that wheelhouse for too long, and Derek Lewis is going to crack you. And if he cracks you, you're going to be on your back looking up at the lights. Because I actually had Derek Lewis to beat Chris Daukaus. And we saw what Chris Daukaus was doing to people at the heavyweight division. He was being really highly touted. Derek Lewis was an underdog coming into that fight. And maybe rightly so, but I didn't think so at the time. And that's why I put money on Derek Lewis to get the knockout in that fight. And wow, how good did he look? Derek Lewis is a classic example of a confidence fighter. When he has confidence and when the pressure is off, he lets his hands go and he fights his way. And when he fights his way, it usually ends up with his opponent on their back looking up at the lights. Now, that being said, Tai Tuivasa, he's no stranger to a brawl. He loves a fight. He loves for it to get scrappy, to get nasty. I mean, Greg Hardy clocked him and stunned him, really, before he put Greg Hardy's lights out. So if it gets into like a battle of who's more durable, I don't actually know who is. Because, I mean, Derek Lewis, obviously, he got finished by Cyril Gane, but that was a lot of that was kind of an accumulation of strikes and probably tiredness as well. So, yeah, who is more durable? I don't really know. And I will say I don't have a favourite fighter in this fight. I think both of these guys are absolutely fantastic. It's a shame that one of them has to lose. Therefore, I'm going to sit on the fence on this one. And I'm going to say that I'm not going to bet on the outcome directly. But when you look at this, it's being billed, don't blink. Don't blink. This one's going to be over. First round, guaranteed. 33 combined knockouts between these two men, and they both like to stand toe-to-toe. So that being said, this is going to a decision. You are getting 4-1 on that, and I actually like that as a decision because they're both quite tough, and I think they're both going to hit each other quite a lot, but I don't think either one of them is going to put the other one away, and it's only 3 rounds. So I think that this was going to a decision. You're getting 4-1 on that. That is a terrible bet, but fantastic odds considering you're not even having to pick a winner. Then you have got the main event of the evening, Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker. This one's going to be an absolute... I mean, we only got a taster of it in the first fight. You know, Israel Adesanya was just better. He cleaned his clock, and Robert Whittaker, he came in there a bit pent up. You could see he was kind of angry, and that's very unusual for Robert Whittaker. It was very uncharacteristic of Robert Whittaker, in all fairness, that performance in particular. Because outside of that, you look at Robert Whittaker did to Gastelum. You look at how he outclassed Cannonier. You look at how he outpointed Darren Till. You look, he's gone back to his old self. You look at the fights against Yoel Romero. He was so on point. And a Robert Whittaker that is completely on point is a real problem for Israel Adesanya, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that Israel Adesanya isn't going to clean this guy's clock again. He might. Israel Adesanya really is that good. This is a real example of the best fighting the best, and you love to see it. You have to take these moments whilst you got them, guys, because these people will be retired before you know it. And these kind of fights are, you know, once in a lifetime fights. You've got the best in the division, Israel Adesanya, taking on the absolute best contender in Robert Whittaker, and it's going to be a terrific fight. No two fights are ever the same as well. Don't expect this one to end the same way as it did last time. Now, so far as picks goes, look, at the end of the day, I could break down their styles. You already know what their styles are. Look, Israel Adesanya, his kickboxing is out of this world. His footwork is fantastic. He can throw strikes from almost anywhere. He's just that good. But Robert Whittaker, he's just got such sound fundamentals, and it's those fundamentals that he uses to win fights. He will edge ahead of his opponents, and he can take them down. He can do pretty much anything. Robert Whittaker is a prime example of a mixed martial artist, whereas I think Israel Adesanya, with respect to him, is a kickboxer that has transitioned into mixed martial arts, if that makes sense. Now, I'm not saying that Israel Adesanya hasn't got takedown defense. He absolutely has. I'm not saying he doesn't have jiu-jitsu. He absolutely does. But I'm saying that, you know, Robert Whittaker came up as a, you know, he learning all facets of the game, and he has no glaring weaknesses. Whereas we saw with Jan Blachowicz, there is a weakness for Adesanya, and that is getting taken down. So, is that going to be a path to victory for Robert Whittaker? I don't know if he just... Thing is, Whittaker tried to force it in the first fight, and I think we see a much more patient version of Robert Whittaker tonight. And whether it works out for him or not is kind of secondary to the fact that this is going to be a very different fight. But I also want to do my betting the way my good old friend, mentor, JLP's son, and the P stands for icon, would bet on this. Now, he says that when two fighters rematch, the younger fighter wins only faster. But I think that's based on the younger fighter having won the first encounter. So you'd be thinking about Israel Adesanya. Unfortunately, Israel Adesanya is older than Robert Whittaker. So that throws all of that out the window. But I am still going to go with the younger fighter here, purely because the odds are absolutely tremendous. I think it's closer on paper than the bookies have it. I'm taking Robert Whittaker to win by knockout. I think that anybody can be caught, although it's very unlikely because Israel Adesanya is bloody elusive. I'm putting that down 6.50. That's 5.5 to 1. That is a terrible bet. And when you put all those together on one accumulator, it gets really tasty because you've got William Knight to get the knockout. Then you've got Blonde Brunson, to beat Cannonier by decision. You have got Tuivasa versus Derek Lewis to go the distance. And then you have got Bobby Knuckles to get the knockout. That is 426.56 to 1. That is a terrible bet, and I absolutely love it. I'm looking forward to these fights. It's going to be absolutely tremendous. Thank you for all your support. Just want to say, if you're watching this on the Patreon right now, thank you for subscribing to the Patreon. It absolutely means the world, and the fights are always early on the Patreon. So like, subscribe, share. It would really mean the world to me. Help me out a lot. And yeah, until Wednesday, when I recap these bets and see how terribly they went, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.